My name's Jess. I wanted a big change, so I moved to the big city looking for something different. I got a cool job at a cozy bookstore, made new friends, and loved exploring the city. Life was great. I had a nice apartment, a job I loved, and my weekends were full of fun. I was meeting new people and making great memories. Then one night at a bar with friends, I met Sam. He walked up and offered me a drink. I said no. Usually, a guy would just leave. But Sam said something. I can't really remember what he said, but it made me talk to him. That night turned into one of the best nights ever. Sam and I hit it off right away, starting a relationship that felt like a dream. But after a few months, Sam changed. He got really jealous and controlling. At first it seemed cute, but then it got serious. He would grab my arm so hard it left bruises. I knew this couldn't go on. I broke up with Sam, hoping he'd understand, but he didn't take it well. It started with endless texts and calls. I tried to ignore Sam's relentless attempts to reach me, hoping he would eventually stop. But one night, an eerie incident happened. I was in bed when my phone rang from an unknown number. Feeling half asleep, I picked it up and said, "Hello?" There was no answer, just the sound of someone breathing slowly and deeply. Confused and a bit scared, I said, "Hello?" again. Then a voice whispered, "I am in your house." My heart raced as I quickly hung up and ran to my parents, who stayed with me that night, and told them what had happened. We looked everywhere in the house but found no one. At the time, I didn't think it was Sam, but looking back, it made sense. But that phone call wasn't the end. Days went by, and Sam began appearing everywhere, near where I worked, at the bookstore, and at places I hung out with my friends. It really scared me. I couldn't figure out how he had so much time to do this. Eventually, I got so mad that fear didn't matter anymore. I confronted him right outside my workplace. He seemed shocked, like he finally understood he should stop. Or at least that's what I hoped. Things were quiet after that. No more texts, no more surprises. I thought maybe Sam had moved on. I let my guard down, thinking I was safe. But I was wrong. One stormy night, I woke up feeling uneasy. It wasn't the storm that woke me. I felt something was wrong. Then I heard a creak from the right side of my room. My heart dropped. I was too scared to look, but I knew someone was there. I finally looked and saw Sam in the corner watching me. I yelled, "What the fuck, Sam? What are you doing?" His eyes looked wild, not like before. I didn't know what to do. "Jess, we need to talk." I found my voice. "Sam, you need to leave." I tried to sound strong. Sam moved closer and I saw he had something hidden. I thought the worst. He's here to hurt me. Then, sirens. Sam panicked, dropped what he was holding, a needle with something in it, and ran out. The police came later, called by my neighbors, an elderly couple who saw someone suspicious but couldn't confront him. They had called the police. That night, Sam was caught, and I was left to deal with the aftermath. A few months later, the thought of what might have happened if my neighbors hadn't called the police stayed in my mind. We never found out his intentions, but as you can guess, he was probably there to kidnap me, or maybe something worse I can't even mention. I never thought that a man I once loved would turn into my biggest nightmare. For privacy reasons, I use the name Rachel. I'm a 25-year-old living in Knoxville and work as a nurse at a local hospital, which keeps me busy, but I find comfort in the routine. After a long relationship that ended badly, I've been enjoying my independence, living in my own purchased apartment. Anyway, life since the breakup has been peaceful. My ex, Tom, and I had been together since college, but as we grew older, we wanted different things. The breakup was rough, especially because Tom didn't take it well. He wanted to keep trying, but I knew it was over. Since then, I've focused on myself, reconnected with old friends, picked up new hobbies, and just enjoyed the solitude. Before I start my story, you should know that since I had my own apartment and changed my life, Tom did everything in his power to get back to me. It even got so bad that he took the same bus and was at every party I was at, just staring at me. He tried to control my life. It eventually got worse when he even threatened my family if I didn't come back to him. I changed all my social media accounts and also my number, and even made sure I didn't leave any trace behind for Tom. I got so scared and paranoid. I needed this change, otherwise I couldn't move on, and I was tired of looking over my shoulder all the time. For a period, everything went well. I thought I had left him behind, and this is where my nightmare started. It all started one evening. I worked a long shift at the hospital. I was done on the second floor, took the elevator to the entrance, and said goodbye to the security guard. Stepping outside, I lit up a cigarette, enjoying the nicotine rush while my mind processed the day. It was a tough work shift as a patient of mine died. I'll never get used to this. Anyway, I walked to the parking lot with my phone in hand, answering missed texts of friends and family. I remember I tried to get my keys out of my pants but couldn't find them anywhere. I forgot putting them in my backpack. I took it off, made a half turn, and then searched for my keys. At that moment, someone quickly jumped behind a car. My heart raced like never before. I got my keys and ran toward my car, opening the door and locking it. I took a quick look, expecting to see someone, but saw no one. I didn't hesitate, started the car, and drove off. During my drive, I kept thinking about the moment I saw someone jumping behind a car. I replayed it, hoping it would ease me, but paranoia came back. I kept looking around when I started to notice the same car had been behind me for about 10 minutes. "Fuck my life, this is not happening again," I cried, and didn't know what to do. I was almost home and decided to take a few turns before getting to my house. There was no way I am going to let him know where I live. At every turn, the car stayed behind me. I was hyperventilating and couldn't keep going. I parked the car next to the road, looking at the car behind me. Instead of parking behind me, the car passed me and drove away until I couldn't see it anymore. God damn it, Rachel. You let paranoia get the hold of you. Your mind is playing tricks. Woman up, I said to myself. I controlled myself, drove to my house, took a quick look around just to be sure I wasn't followed, and got inside. The next few days passed without incident, and I began to convince myself that everything was just a product of my overworked imagination or my past traumas. That is until Saturday night. I was done with work, got home, and went straight to bed. I was so tired. Before I closed my eyes, I browsed the internet and read the news. I remember reading something about Tom Brady retiring when I heard a scratching sound at my window. I live on the second floor, making the idea of someone being outside my window not just terrifying, but also impossible. Or so, I thought. I rushed to the window to close the curtains. I usually leave them slightly open to let in the morning light. The moment I approached the window, I saw someone jump and run off. It wasn't my imagination. Someone was out there. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police, but then hesitated. What if I was again overreacting? Was it really someone meant for me? I am on the second floor. There's no way someone would come up here. What put me a bit at ease? I know you guys are listening to this and think, how can you be so stupid? But when you've been paranoid for a long time, your mind sometimes plays tricks, and you need to learn to get a hold of yourself. So, against better judgment, I decided against calling. It was a decision I would later regret. The next night, I was calling my parents, telling them what happened to me. They knew what I'd been through. It was nice speaking to my dad. He asked a lot of questions and let me see all the events from a different angle. After some time, we ended the call, and I started to get ready for bed. I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, and went to bed. I laid down, turned a couple of times, and eventually fell asleep. I woke up sitting straight right away. What the hell was that? I asked. I looked to my right. There was a metal object scratching the window. My heart was in my throat and panic set in through my whole body. "I found you, Rachel. Open the goddamn window." It was Tom. No way he found me. "Not all over again," I said with a crying voice to myself. "I called the police. Fuck off, Tom." I hadn't called the police yet. How could I in such a short time? But I needed to say something to protect myself. After a few seconds, I saw Tom leaving the window. I calmed myself down after a few minutes and called my mom, explaining the whole situation. But before I could finish my story, she stopped me and urged me to call the police. I agreed and hung up. I was dialing 911 when I heard the doorknob twist, followed by my front door opening. Without a thought, I ran to the bathroom, barricading myself in. The police operator accepted the call, and I whispered through tears what was happening and that I needed help. The police were on their way. It would take around 5 minutes. She would stay on the line, but before we could speak further, I heard Tom yelling, "Rachel, stop hiding and show yourself. I just want to talk." Tom kept repeating the same line over and over, while kept walking through the apartment. I heard him coming closer until the moment he passed my door, but stopped a few inches away. I was unable to stop crying and make any noise. He realized where I was hiding. Suddenly, the sound of his pleading turned into huge rage. He started pounding on the door. "Please, Tom, leave!" I shouted back. But my plea only made him madder. Then I remember for a brief moment, he went quiet. I foolishly hoped it was over and Tom left. But then, the silence was broken by the sound of him picking up something heavy. Without any warning, he threw himself against the bathroom door. The force of his body hit made me scream in terror, my voice shaking as I begged the police operator to hurry. "Stay put. The police will be there in 2 minutes," she assured me. "The door won't hold. Please, please, please hurry," I yelled. Tom hit the door repeatedly, followed by a small crack appearing in the door, letting me see the madness in his eyes. No matter how much I yelled for him to stop, he seemed possessed. His actions were beyond reason. He hit the door a few times and the crack became bigger, until the point his hand fit through. I didn't hesitate, took a razor and scratched his hand with a lot of force. He screamed with pain, but it didn't stop him. He almost got to the doorknob, so I needed to do something and grabbed his hand with all my force. I am really petite, so for me, it was one of the toughest struggles. This went on for a minute or so when the police shouted at Tom to put his weapon down and get on the ground with his hands on his back. There was a moment of silence. Then someone ran, and I heard something like a taser being shot. After this moment, everything went black. I woke up at the entrance of my apartment in an ambulance. The police told me what happened and that they had Tom in custody. Later, Tom was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Finally, the nightmare was over. Or at least that's what I thought, because I needed a lot of therapy and help to get over this. Maybe this was even harder than the experience itself. The thought of what might have happened if the police never came never left my mind. It's safe to say I wouldn't have been here to tell the story if the police hadn't come. My name's Ava. I lived in a big city and my life feels pretty standard. I've got my daily routines, but I also love unexpected fun. But there's something that bothers me a lot, and I wish I could forget it ever happened. That something is my ex, Leo. At first, we were great together, or at least I thought so. But things got really bad over time. When I finally ended it, I hoped that would be the last I'd hear from him. I was wrong. Leo was charming, but after we split, he wouldn't leave me alone. He bombarded me with messages day and night. Some begged me to return, while others were downright frightening. He seemed unable to accept that it was over. I tried to move on, changed my routines, and even got a new phone number. But Leo kept popping up, always there somehow. My friends had to stick close to keep me safe from him appearing suddenly. After the breakup, things quieted down for a bit. I started to rebuild my life, focusing more on work, hanging out more with friends, and picking up old hobbies. Life felt normal again, enjoying simple things like quiet mornings, park walks, and being myself. But this peace didn't last. It was just a pause in Leo's pursuit, a time he used to plan his next unsettling moves. Weird things began happening. Night calls from unknown numbers, strangers adding me on social media, and creepy messages from fake accounts. Alone, these things seemed minor, but together, they unnerved me. In his texts, Leo somehow knew exactly what I was doing. Each time, I'd look outside trying to spot him or figure out how he could see me. This made me paranoid, always checking for Leo outside my window. Then things got scarier. Coming home, I'd find things moved or misplaced. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but when I looked for a spare key and it was gone, I knew someone had been inside. I called my neighbor, and we checked the house, but found no one. We changed all the locks, hoping that would end it. Yet, the next day, I found my favorite flowers outside my door. It seemed sweet, but I knew it was Leo. He had been in my house, and the thought terrified me. I couldn't sleep, afraid he'd come back. One evening, while trying to relax, I decided to take a hot shower. The steam filled the room, and for a moment, I felt at ease. Suddenly, the bathroom lights flickered and went out. I stood there, water still running, enveloped in darkness. I reached out, trying to find the wall when I heard it. A soft, sinister whisper right outside the shower curtain. My heart stopped. "Ava," the voice said, dragging out my name in a chilling, familiar tone. It was Leo's voice. I froze, too scared to move or scream. The lights flickered back on, and I ripped the curtain open, but no one was there. The door was still locked from the inside. I turned off the water, wrapped myself in a towel, and raced through the apartment, turning on every light. Nothing was out of place, but the whisper lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder that Leo was never truly gone. It was clear Leo was behind this, sneaking back into my life in a creepy way, reminding me he was still there. I was constantly scared, always looking for him. Then for a while, Leo's texts and calls stopped. Life felt lighter. Work was easier, and I enjoyed time with friends. Thinking maybe Leo had moved on, I felt happier, hoping the worst was behind me. It had been about a month since I last heard from Leo. After a fun night out, I had to walk home alone on a dark, tree-lined road. I've done it many times, so I wasn't too worried. Saying goodbye to my friends, I started walking. I was deep into scrolling through my phone when suddenly I heard a creak to my right. I stopped, shining my phone's flashlight around, but there was no one there. I thought maybe it was just an animal and kept walking. Then, I heard the noise again, this time more than one. I thought it might be an animal again, but to be sure, I pointed my flashlight towards the sound. That's when I saw someone dart behind a tree. My heart sank, realizing someone was following me. I couldn't just run. The path turned right and the figure could cut me off. So I shouted out, warning them I had pepper spray and was ready to use it. Then Leo stepped out from behind the tree just a few feet away. "Leo, what do you want?" I tried to sound strong. "I just want to talk, Ava," he said, moving closer. "We're done talking. Leave me alone," I said firmly. But he kept coming closer. I yelled, hoping someone would hear. "It's over, Leo. Accept it." He paused, then suddenly lunged at me, grabbing me. I managed a brief scream before he covered my mouth, and everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital with police around me. They said a jogger heard me, intervened, and Leo ran off. I pressed charges, and Leo got 12 years in jail for trying to kidnap me. I'm thankful for the jogger who saved me. It took a year to consider dating again, but life went back to normal. This taught me to be wary, especially with those you once trusted. The most dangerous people can be those you thought you knew. My name is Sarah, and I'm 29 years old. I live outside Austin, Texas, in a friendly neighborhood. Life was pretty normal with work, friends, and some fun adventures here and there. Then everything changed when my relationship with Ethan ended. Ethan was a charming guy, always the center of attention. But when we were alone, he became too controlling, making me feel trapped. Breaking up with him was tough, but needed for my peace of mind. I hoped that was the end of it, that I could move on. However, Ethan didn't take it well. His affection turned into an obsession that followed me everywhere, even after I tried to leave him behind. Things were great before Ethan's jealousy started showing. I was doing well at work, having fun on weekends, and even planning a trip by myself. But then, Ethan's jealousy began causing fights, ruining our happy times with his accusations and anger. Our arguments became more frequent. Ethan's caring nature changed into something controlling, telling me who I could hang out with, where I could go, and what to wear. I started to fear the man I once loved. On the day I broke up with him, Ethan was eerily calm but gave me a chilling look. His parting words, "You'll regret this," haunted me. Ethan started messaging me nonstop and would often drive by my home and work. It felt like I was constantly being watched, which made me anxious all the time. One evening, I was alone in the living room when I heard a small tapping sound at the window. I brushed it off as it being the wind or something. But then the tapping grew louder. I looked and at that moment saw someone move outside. My heart started beating fast. I knew in my gut it was Ethan. I wanted to call for help, but suddenly I heard glass breaking from the back door. Without a thought, I ran to the bathroom. It was the only room with a lock, and hid there. I could hear several people walking around downstairs, making noises as if they were searching through my things. When I was calling 911, those footsteps got louder and closer, eventually coming slowly up the stairs. I held my breath as I heard someone open and then close my bedroom door. Then, the sound of footsteps got closer to the bathroom. They walked past the door at first, but then they came back and stopped right outside. Ethan's voice came from the other side of the door. "Let's just talk," he said, then yelled and hit the door so hard I thought it might break. I sat in the corner, quietly talking to the police operator, asking them to come fast. It felt like forever with Ethan yelling and hitting the door. Then everything went quiet. I could hear footsteps slowly walking up to the bathroom door. "You can't hide from us, Sarah," a different voice said, which made me freeze. Was Ethan not alone? I asked myself. Next, I heard the sound of breaking glass from another part of the house. Then the footsteps seemed to run away. I was so confused and scared, wondering who else was there. But then I heard the sound of police sirens getting closer. After a minute or so, the police arrived. They talked to me, making sure I was okay. The scary part was over, but I couldn't forget those moments, a reminder of how terrifying the night was. Later that day, Ethan got arrested and till this day remains in custody. After some time, 2 more men were apprehended. I immediately obtained a restraining order and am now waiting for the trial to begin. The police haven't disclosed the men's intentions, but thinking it through, I have an idea of what they were planning, and it was nothing good. I'm grateful that the police arrived just in time,